Hello everyone, I'm Lisa Lane, and this is the championship edition of Touchdowns and Donuts, the sweetest fantasy football show on the web. For all of you contenders, I'm going to do my best to give you some last-minute pickups that will hopefully land you that coveted fantasy prize. But before we get to the weekly dozen, I need to crown the Donut of the Week. That goes to, drumroll please, Aaron Rodgers, or maybe me, because I fell for that hype. I did, I admit it. Aaron Rodgers made his return last week, and most of us believed he would have an epic comeback and help the Packers become playoff contenders. Instead, he returned, threw 3 picks, and fell short to the Panthers. Rodgers is now back on IR, and all of us that thought we should place him back in our lineup wish we could go back in time and change that decision. So Aaron Rodgers, you're our Donut of the Week. But we can't live in the past. It's time to set those lineups and earn that fantasy football championship title. Let's check out my weekly dozen. Here we go. Kicking things off, if you have to stream a QB, let's go with my college quarterback, Nick Foles. Last week, stepping up for the injured Carson Wentz, Foles silenced doubters by throwing 4 touchdown passes and racking up 25 fantasy points. Added bonus, he has a favorable matchup against the Raiders this week. Good luck, Nick, and bear down. Okay, next QB option. I'm going to say Dak Prescott. Why? Well, Prescott's at his best when he has Ezekiel Elliott in the backfield. And guess what? Elliott's back. Plus, he faces the Seahawks defense that, gave up a whole lot of points to the Rams last week. Looking on the waiver wire for a receiver, one option is Devontae Parker. The Dolphins wide receiver nabbed 6 of 12 targets for 89 yards on Sunday. He hasn't had the best season, but he has a good chance of finishing strong when he faces the Kansas City Chiefs that have a bottom 5 pass defense. A receiver I think will have a huge game, Los Angeles Rams, Robert Woods. Last week, you couldn't tell he was just coming off an injury. His legs are fresh, and Goff tends to target him often. That will surely be the case when he faces the Titans, a matchup he should be able to dominate. Of course, many of you might be trying to figure out how to fill the huge hole in your roster left by Antonio Brown. Well, right now, any Steeler is a good option, so those wideouts will round out my first half of the dozen. You have Martavis Bryant, who has reestablished himself recently in the offense and seen an uptick in targets. Plus, remember, the Houston squad has been torched all season long through the air. Another Steelers option, of course, Juju Smith-Schuster. He led the Steelers in yards and receptions against New England. He's a star in the making and has potential for some big production against the Texans. Honestly, you could start them both and fare well. It's a must-start situation since they're facing the Houston Texans. All right, we have 6 more players to go. Let's check out some running back options if you aren't one of the lucky ones riding on the tails of Todd Gurley, Alvin Kamara, Kareem Hunt, or Melvin Gordon. So for the rest of us, let's see some options that are out there. How about Ezekiel Elliott? Did you see any of those workout videos of how he's been staying in shape? This guy is ready to go. And honestly, probably pretty pissed coming off a 6-game suspension. I say roll the dice on this one and let's see how Elliott responds. My next pick, CJ Anderson. The Broncos have finally recommitted to Anderson, giving him 52 carries over the last 2 games. I think with the matchup against Washington, he should be a solid second running back pick for your championship roster. With Rex Burkhead out of the Patriots lineup, I predict Dion Lewis having a big game against a terrible Bills run defense. Let's just hope Belichick uses him on the goal line for some real fantasy numbers. Last pick, once again, I'm going to look at the Steelers roster. Le'Veon Bell. I think he's going to get more touches than normal with AB out, and that's music to any fantasy owner's ears. In terms of tight ends, lock in Lions' Eric Ebron. He had a disappointing start to the season, I know, but he's finally delivering for fantasy owners. Check out these stats. He's had 15 catches and 127 yards and a touchdown on 18 targets in his past 2 outings. Only owned by 44% of owners, so you have a solid chance at grabbing him. And lastly, Benjamin Watson from the Baltimore Ravens. Only 21% owned, but he has a favorable matchup against the Colts that are ranked 7th in allowing fantasy points to a tight end. Watson is coming off a strong game with 4 catches and 74 yards and a touchdown. All right, well that wraps up my weekly dozen. It's now time for me to pick my final donut of the 2017 season. So of course I have to make it a good one, which means I'm avoiding this Fruity Pebbles one. I was not a fan. So let's see what we got here. All right, chocolate with the Christmas sprinkles. I'm falling for it. Okay. I think we're ending on a high note, guys. I love it. Thank you so much for following along all season long. I hope you guys earn that championship crown. I'll see you next season. Good luck, everybody.